One thing you can never do is question my dedication to the channel. I literally just walked in the door from Too Many Games, sat my suitcase down, and came downstairs to make this video because I saw this topic pop up over the weekend, and I was like, I need to talk about this because I've been very outspoken about this situation. Now, at the end of the video, I will show you guys the things I picked up from Too Many Games. Not many things at all, but one of them was pretty cool, I thought. And my voice is a little bit shot. It was a very long weekend, but a very fun weekend. So if you came out to Too Many Games, you came to the panel, the signing, stopped me on the show floor to say hi, take a picture or whatever. Thank you guys so much. It was an awesome weekend, very positive and fun weekend, and I had a great time. And yeah, I'll be there next year. But let's talk about the topic at hand here. First time on the channel, hit that subscribe button. The game key card situation, because boy, oh boy, I've been trying to tell you guys. I've been trying to warn you guys. I've been trying to justify these things for you to make you understand it, because I get it. A lot of people don't like the game key card thing. They don't like the non-traditional physical media that game key card represents. But I tried to give you guys kind of reasonings behind it, and whatever you do with that, you can do with that. But there are decisions being made for various reasons. A lot of it comes down to pricing, and I know that there's people that are like, oh, well, I would pay more for a true physical edition of this game. But the average consumer doesn't necessarily think that way. They want to pay as little as humanly possible. Well, one of the shareholders did bring up the game key card situation during the latest shareholders meeting that took place, I think it was Friday when this news broke. And Nintendo gave an answer that, if you've been paying attention, you should have understand. You should understand why this was the answer. So the question is, I often hear that third-party games don't sell well on Nintendo's hardware. I think the Nintendo Switch 2's key card has mediocre specs and lacks appeal, but it is widely adopted by third parties. Could this spec lead to a drift away from third-party support? So essentially what they're saying is, it lacks appeal from a developer standpoint because of the fact that you have a 64 gigabyte maximum on an actual physical cartridge, and it does appear that that is the only way to get a physical cartridge. So if your game is much smaller, you're going to have to charge more for your game because you're going to have to make up the cost of what that physical cartridge is going to cost you as a company. Now, you could sit here and say that companies should eat the cost and stuff like that, but in my opinion, what they're going to do is just offer digital. And if they offer digital only, then you lose any sort of resale value you have with a game key card. I'm not saying that you need to feel happy about game key cards. I'm just trying to provide you guys reasons and logic behind the decision. And Nintendo went on to say the following: the game key card does not contain the game itself, but rather a key for activation. A download is required when playing for the first time. It was adopted because the internal storage capacity of Nintendo Switch 2 is larger than that of the Nintendo Switch. We will make efforts to ensure that third-party software sells well. There was a part that it was hard to hear, so the nuance might be slightly different. But essentially saying that we're going to make sure that third-party games sell well, and that this is something that needed to be done because of the storage capacity of the Switch 2 versus the Switch 1. I know what you're saying. Well, the Switch 1 was much smaller storage capacity with this system. Essentially, what they're trying to say is, since you have more space, you can then just use a game key card. Thus, the developers and publishers of the third-party games are going to remain happy with the whole cost of things, because that's really what it boils down to, is cost. A game like Yakuza 0 Director's Cut here. There are people out there that said, I would have paid $70 for a true physical version of that game. But I want to ask you guys, just an honest question here. And I understand that you're also more in tune with these things, and you're into physical collecting and stuff. I'm a retro guy at heart and stuff like that. But all because you would pay $70 for this, do you think the average person would pay $70, or would they rather pay $50 and then have to download it? The problem that kind of remains right now is the physical game cartridges for the Nintendo Switch 2, like I said before, they are simply a 64 gigabyte cartridge. Now, over time, the idea and thought process is the price of that could potentially come down. It's alleged that, according to the NIS America leaks, not Miss America, NIS America, that it costs a developer or a publisher $17 to get a 64 gigabyte cartridge and then put their game on that. So they're obviously comparing that to something like a Blu-ray, which costs, pennies at this point in time, it's obviously much more attractive to do something like that and more feasible because now you don't have to sell as many copies. But when that price does start to come down of those 64 gigabyte cartridges, then maybe we have a better opportunity of getting more traditional physical games on the system when it comes to smaller titles. You're always going to have those larger titles, though, that it's going to be more strain on a developer to shrink it down to the Nintendo Switch 2 size in order to make it work. And I understand why that is the medium because of the fact that, hey, you can't do a disc or anything like that. But it frustrates me when people are just like, game key card bad. And it's like, okay, well, what's your suggestion? What should they do? They should just make it all physical. And it's like, but then it's going to cost so much more. You're going to be paying so much more for a game that's going to be cheaper on another platform. And that's going to cannibalize the sales of it because, yes, you might buy it, but the average person probably isn't thinking that way. So, we got to figure out what to do with this. We got to figure out the sort of happy medium. Me personally, I do not have a big issue with the game key cards. I've kind of dabbled more in the world of digital. I think this is a nice stopgap to where you still have something that you can sell if you want to sell it or trade if you want to trade it, and it still has value versus a standard digital game. And it does seem like Nintendo also sees it that way as well. And they're pretty much just saying, hey, this is what we have to do. This is how it's going to be. And, unless something drastic happens, this is the way it's going to be. And I mean, you could even, you want to go down this road? Let's go down this road. You could even make the argument that that's why standard Switch 2 games are $70 because of the fact, think about this. What was the one Switch 1 game that was $70? Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom was the biggest file size game that Nintendo ever made. Ever. They had to put it on a larger cartridge than they normally would have to do it. And that game was $70. Yet, every other game was $60. Now we're at the era of where the $70 game is standard. Could that be because there's only one cartridge size now? And all these other, Drag X Drive and the Welcome Tour, those are only digital games. Are you not going to see a $40 physical Nintendo Switch 2 game from Nintendo because of the fact, bro, I'm just making you guys think here. You have to think about it from that perspective because Nintendo is a business at the end of the day. And they're going to do what makes them money, and they're going to do what they see best. And let's be real, people, people are upset with the $80 Mario Kart price tag, and I was one of them. But I also understood that I was going to get the game just in the bundle here, and people vote with their wallets. And all because a lot of people online make a lot of fuss about it, it doesn't necessarily transfer over to real world sales and stuff like that. But I thought this was very interesting that Nintendo actually was asked this and kind of, pretty much just doubled down on it. They're like, you know what, this is how it's going to be. And, you can either buy it or you can buy it digitally and then have no resale value attached to that digital version of the game. At least it is an option. And I'm sure there'll be people in the comments that are like, well, you got to do micro SD cards. You got to do the express micro SD cards. Those will come down in price as well. I actually tried to warn you guys to pick up micro SD card or micro SD express cards before the Switch 2 came out because that one that you're paying $60, I paid $30 for before the big markup, and we never found out the reason why there was a markup here. But I'm definitely interested to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below about what Nintendo had to say. And that's kind of going to be the news portion of this video. The rest of it is just going to be a little too many games chatter. So if you decided to leave, hey, thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button on the way out and subscribe if you are new. I did buy a few things. I was given a few things as well. We'll do the given things first. This was done by a very talented individual. Arminaheim is their Instagram. I followed them on Instagram. I will put their Instagram tag on the screen so you guys, or I'll put it in the description so you guys can check it out. She had a bunch of different little arts like these, and I believe they're perler arts. And she let me pick one, and I went with the blue shell because I want to do things the easiest way in life. So I like the cheat code. I also was given two more things. This is from Chroma Coma, W. Andrew Shepard. He's an oil painter artist. He found me on the show floor and wanted to give me this. Metal Sonic, like Metal Sonic, Sonic CD vibes. Like, I love this. I think this is so cool. I'm actually going to put it up right here because I got some wall space. So, shout outs to W. Andrew Shepard. Chroma Coma. I'll put the name of it up on the screen. A gentleman gave me this on the floor. He forgot to give it to me at the panel, or he missed the panel. I didn't catch his name, though. A copy of WrestleMania 2000 on the Game Boy, which I didn't own, so that's pretty cool. Shout outs to you, good sir. And then I bought three things, but one of them is in my suitcase. It's a Hulk Hogan coloring book. It was $10. Half the pages are already colored. Whatever. The first thing I bought was a Shovel Knight amiibo, and I had Celia sign it because I thought that would be like really cool. I don't know. Like, I just thought it was kind of a cool thing to do, like just a cool piece. Because obviously I'm not out here like, oh, I need to get the steals and deals on the retro games and shit like that. And then the final thing is actually something from my childhood that I do not have, that I looked for last year, looked for up and down. I remember a vendor actually told me there wasn't such a variant. And I was like, bro, I had this variant as a kid. Like, you're not going to tell me that it didn't exist. We walked around day one, day two. Day two, honestly, was very busy. I'll talk about it in a second. We walked around the show floor kind of looking for it, never really found it. And today, final day, Sunday, John and I were walking around, and you know, I saw what I thought was it, and then I looked closer, and I'm like, oh no, that's not it. And John's like, oh, is that it right there? And I thought he was talking about what I was looking at. I was like, no, one of them has a weird sticker on it, but it's a Walmart sticker. That's not what I was looking for. He's like, no, look down there. And sure enough, it was right there. This is the Game Boy that I got when I got a good report card. I got it at KB Toy Store. It was the Super Mario Land 2 special offer. It had the sticker on it that goes underneath. That's really the only identifying thing on it. But it comes packaged with Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins. And I never see this there. They had it listed for $225. I offered 2. We met at 210. Came with this nice little case. I don't know if everything's in there. Like, it feels like everything's in here. I'm going to assume it is because it's in a case. But even if it's not, just like, this is a perfect display piece that I could put on the second bookshelf. And it was very cool to find this, you know. And that was pretty much it. I probably spent more money on alcohol. If you caught the live stream Friday night, we're making that a yearly tradition. That was a lot of fun. The panel was super fun. I was a presenter at the Indie Award Show. The signing was great. So many people came through, you know, seeing familiar faces, new faces, you know, having inside jokes with these people that you see once a year. It's a very fun thing. I had a great time. You know, I had a great time. It's always an awesome experience. And I hope that if you saw me, you met me either, or you came to the panel, or, you know, you came to the indie show, however you came across me at Too Many Games, even if you watched a stream of it or something. I hope you were entertained by me. I hope that it showed you that I'm not as big of a dick in real life as I am on the internet. Like, I like to think I'm a decent person, but I hope you had a good time. I hope I exceeded your expectations, and I hope I see you again next year. So that's my little speech. That's my little pickups. I'm going to bed. Good night.